The diner was alive with noise. Plates clattered as they were set down on tables. Forks scraped against plates and laughter echoed off the walls. Chuck's Corner, located just outside Austin, Texas, was always busy around this time of day. It wasn't fancy, just a simple place where people could grab a meal or a cup of coffee. But it had charm. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with fried chicken and pancakes filled the air, making anyone who walked in feel hungry, even if they weren't before. Laura Bennett moved quickly between the tables, balancing a tray loaded with plates of food. Her brown hair was tied back into a messy ponytail, and her apron was stained with small splashes of ketchup and grease. She'd been working here for 2 years now, ever since she dropped out of community college to help her mom pay the bills. At first, the job felt okay. It was tiring, sure, but she liked talking to the regulars and hearing their stories. Over time, though, the long hours and low pay started to wear on her. Today was no different. The diner was packed with truckers, taking a break from the highway, families stopping by after visiting nearby attractions, and locals grabbing a quick bite. Everyone seemed to be in a hurry, and Laura struggled to keep up. She delivered orders, refilled drinks, and tried to smile despite feeling exhausted. But deep down, she couldn't stop thinking about how hard it was to make ends meet. Rent was due next week, and she still didn't have enough saved up. "Hey, Laura," said Jake Miller, her co-worker, as he leaned against the counter. Jake was tall and lanky, with shaggy blonde hair that always looked like he'd just rolled out of bed. He was newer than Laura, having only worked at the diner for 6 months, but they got along well. "You doing all right? You look like you're about to collapse." "I'm fine," Laura replied with a sigh. "Just tired, I guess. This place has been non-stop today." Jake nodded knowingly. "Yeah, tell me about it, but hey, at least we're getting tips, right?" Laura frowned. "Tips? What tips? Half these people leave me nothing, and the ones who do usually give me less than $1. Do they think I don't need to eat too?" Jake chuckled nervously. "Well, maybe they're just cheap." "No kidding," Laura muttered. She glanced over at table 7, where a group of tourists sat laughing and snapping pictures of their food. One of them had left a nickel on the table earlier, which made Laura want to scream. A nickel? For bringing them 3 full meals and refilling their sodas 5 times. As she stood there venting to Jake, the door to the diner opened, letting in a gust of warm Texas air. An older man stepped inside, his boots clicking softly against the tiled floor. He wore a pair of faded blue jeans, a plaid shirt, and a cowboy hat that shaded most of his face. His presence was quiet, almost unnoticeable as he scanned the room before choosing a seat at one of the empty tables near the window. Laura watched him for a moment, but didn't think much of it. Tourists and travelers came through the diner all the time, and he looked like any other customer. She grabbed a menu and headed over to greet him, forcing a polite smile onto her face. "Hi there," she said brightly. "Welcome to Chuck's Corner. Can I get you something to drink while you look at the menu?" The man looked up at her, his eyes sharp beneath the brim of his hat. There was something about him that felt familiar, though Laura couldn't quite place it. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, calm and confident, like someone used to being in charge. "Coffee," he said simply. "Black." "Sure thing," Laura replied, jotting it down on her notepad. "I'll bring that right out." She hurried back to the counter, relaying the order to the kitchen staff. As she waited for the coffee to brew, she found herself glancing back at the man every so often. He sat perfectly still, his hands resting on the table in front of him. Occasionally, he would look around the room, observing the other patrons. With what seemed like genuine interest, Jake noticed her staring. "Who's that guy?" he asked, nodding toward the stranger. "I don't know," Laura admitted. "He seems nice enough, I guess. Quiet." "Well, let's hope he tips better than the last guy," Jake joked. Laura rolled her eyes. "Don't hold your breath." When the coffee was ready, she poured it into a mug and took it over to the man's table. Setting it down carefully, she gave him another polite smile. "Here you go. Let me know if you need anything else." "Thank you," he said, his voice calm and measured. For a moment, their eyes met. and Laura felt a strange sense of unease. It was like he could see right through her, past the fake smile and forced cheerfulness, straight to the frustration, simmering underneath. Shaking off the feeling, she turned and walked away, heading back to check on her other tables. Back at the counter, Jake nudged her elbow. "So, what's the verdict? Is Mr. Mystery going to be a good tipper?" Laura shrugged. "We'll see. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves me 50 cents like everyone else." Jake laughed. "Hey, at least he ordered coffee. That's more than some people do." Laura sighed again, leaning against the counter for a brief moment. She knew Jake was trying to lighten the mood, but she couldn't shake the weight of her frustrations. Every day felt like a battle, juggling work, bills, and the constant worry about money. And while she loved the people she worked with, sometimes it felt like the universe was conspiring against her. Little did Laura know, the man sitting quietly at table 7 wasn't just another customer. Unbeknownst to her, and everyone else in the diner, he was Chuck Norris, the famous actor and martial artist. After retiring from Hollywood, Chuck had decided to invest in small businesses across America, hoping to create opportunities for hardworking people like Laura. He rarely revealed his identity when visiting his properties, preferring to observe how things ran without drawing attention to himself. But today, something about Laura caught his eye. Perhaps it was the way she carried herself, determined yet weary, or the raw honesty in her complaints to Jake. Whatever it was, Chuck found himself intrigued. He sipped his coffee slowly, watching as Laura darted between tables. Her movements, efficient but strained. By the time he finished his drink, Laura had completely forgotten about him. She was too busy dealing with a family whose kids kept spilling milk and arguing over dessert. When she finally returned to clear his table, she noticed the bill tucked under the edge of his mug. Alongside it was a $1 bill. Laura stared at it for a second, then muttered under her breath, "Great, another cheap tipper." What she didn't realize was that the man hadn't left yet. He was standing just a few feet away, waiting to speak with her. And when he did, everything was about to change for both of them. The diner was still bustling, though things had slowed down just enough for Laura to catch her breath. She'd been running around nonstop for hours, and now she finally had a moment to clear some tables. As she approached table 7 again, she noticed the older man hadn't moved. His coffee mug sat empty on the table, alongside the bill and that $1 tip. Laura picked up the mug, frowning slightly. "Another cheap tipper," she muttered under her breath, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. But what surprised her was the sound of a deep voice behind her. "Is there something wrong?" She froze, her hand clutching the mug tightly. Slowly, she turned around to see the older man standing there, his arms crossed casually over his chest. His expression wasn't angry, but there was a seriousness in his eyes that made her feel uneasy. For a second, she thought about pretending she hadn't said anything, but it was too late. He'd clearly heard her. No, nothing's wrong," Laura stammered, trying to recover. "I was just, talking to myself." The man raised an eyebrow. "About tips?" Laura felt her cheeks flush red. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Normally, customers ignored comments like that, or at least pretended they didn't hear them. But this guy? He wasn't letting it slide. "I'm sorry," she said, quickly setting the mug down on the tray. "I didn't mean to complain. It's just, sometimes people don't leave much and it makes things tough. That's all." The man nodded slowly, his gaze never leaving hers. "Tough how?" Laura hesitated. She didn't usually talk about her problems with customers. It wasn't professional, but something about him made her want to explain. Maybe it was the way he listened, like he actually cared about what she had to say. "Well," she began, glancing around to make sure no one else was listening. "It's hard to live off tips alone. Some days are good, but most days aren't. I work long hours, and after rent, groceries, and everything else, there's barely anything left. And when people leave tiny tips, or none at all, it feels like they don't even think about how hard we work." Jake, who had been refilling napkin dispensers at the counter, shot her a worried look. He mouthed the words, "Be careful," but Laura ignored him. She couldn't stop herself now. The words kept coming. "It's not just me either," she continued. "Everyone here works so hard and we barely get paid enough to survive. Tips are supposed to help, but when people only leave $1 or less, it doesn't really add up. It's frustrating, you know?" The man listened silently, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he didn't respond right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a pen. Leaning over the table, he scribbled something on the back of the receipt before handing it to her. "Thank you for sharing your thoughts," he said calmly. "If you ever need to talk more, here's my number. Feel free to call anytime." Laura stared at the piece of paper in her hand, stunned. Was this really happening? A customer, not just any customer, but the one she'd complained about, was giving her his contact information? What kind of person did that? Before she could say anything else, the man tipped his hat politely and walked toward the exit. The bell above the door jingled softly as he stepped outside, disappearing into the bright Texas sunlight. For a moment, Laura just stood there, staring at the receipt. Then Jake hurried over, his face pale. "What did you do?" he whispered, urgently. "Do you realize who that might have been?" Laura blinked. "Who?" Jake glanced nervously toward the door. "I don't know for sure, but he looked familiar. Like maybe someone famous or rich, or both." Laura groaned, slumping against the nearest table. "Great, just great. So now I've offended some celebrity billionaire because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. This day keeps getting better and better." Jake tried to reassure her. "Hey, maybe it's fine. He seemed pretty chill about it. Besides, he gave you his number, right? That's gotta count for something." Laura wasn't convinced. "Yeah, but why would he do that? No normal person gives their number to a random waitress just because she complains about tips. Something's off." As the afternoon wore on, Laura found it hard to focus. Every time the door opened, she half expected the man to walk back in. Her mind raced with possibilities. Who was he? Why had he reacted the way he did? And what exactly was she supposed to do with his number? By the time her shift ended, she was exhausted, not just physically but mentally too. She clocked out and headed to the break room to grab her bag, hoping to leave the strange encounter behind her. But fate had other plans. As she pushed open the door to leave, she nearly collided with the manager, Mrs. Dawson. Standing beside her was the same older man from earlier, only this time he wasn't wearing his cowboy hat. His face was fully visible, and Laura immediately recognized him. "Oh, my God," she whispered, her heart sinking. "You're Chuck Norris." Chuck smiled warmly. "Guilty as charged." Mrs. Dawson cleared her throat. "Laura, Mr. Norris owns this diner. He stopped by today to check on things, and I thought it would be a good opportunity for you two to meet." Laura felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. Of all the people she could have complained to about tips, it had to be the owner of the diner, and not just any owner, but Chuck Norris, legendary actor, martial artist, and entrepreneur, the man everyone admired. I'm so sorry," she stammered, her voice trembling. "I didn't know it was you. If I'd known..." Chuck held up a hand, cutting her off. "There's no need to apologize, Laura. You spoke honestly, and I respect that. In fact, I agree with you." Laura blinked. You do?" He nodded. "Absolutely. Tips are incredibly important, especially in places like this. And while I can't control what customers choose to leave, I can make sure my employees are treated fairly. That's why I bought this diner, to create opportunities for hard-working people like you." Laura didn't know what to say. She'd expected anger or disappointment, maybe even a lecture. But instead, Chuck sounded understanding and supportive. "Appreciate your honesty," he continued. "And I'll tell you what. Starting next week, I'm implementing a new policy here at Chuck's Corner. All employees will receive a guaranteed minimum wage plus a share of the profits. No more relying solely on tips." Laura's jaw dropped. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," Chuck replied with a grin. "You deserve better than what you've been getting. Everyone here does." Tears welled up in Laura's eyes, though she fought to hold them back. For years, she'd dreamed of finding a job that paid enough to support her family without constant stress. Now, thanks to one unexpected conversation, That dream suddenly felt within reach. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice thick with emotion. "This means so much." Chuck patted her shoulder gently. "Don't thank me yet. There's still plenty of work to be done. But I promise you this. If you keep working as hard as you have been, you'll go far." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Laura standing there in disbelief. Jake appeared moments later, grinning from ear to ear. "So, how bad was it?" he asked teasingly. Laura shook her head, laughing despite herself. "Not bad at all. Actually, it was amazing." As she stepped outside, the warm Texas air greeted her like an old friend. The sun was beginning to set, casting golden light across the parking lot. For the first time in ages, Laura felt hopeful. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she could face them, and thanks to Chuck Norris, she wouldn't have to do it alone. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of change at Chuck's corner. Word spread quickly among the staff about the new policy Chuck Norris had announced, a guaranteed minimum wage plus profit sharing, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off everyone's shoulders. For Laura, the shift was profound. No longer did she lie awake at night worrying about how to stretch her paycheck to cover rent and groceries. Now she could focus on doing what she loved most, serving customers and making the diner feel like home. Laura threw herself into her work with renewed energy. She started arriving early to help set up, stayed late to clean up, and even began mentoring newer employees. One of those employees was Sarah, a shy teenager who had just started working part-time after school. At first, Sarah struggled to keep up with the fast pace of the diner, often dropping plates or mixing up orders. But Laura took her under her wing, teaching her tricks to stay organized and encouraging her to trust herself. "You're doing great," Laura told Sarah one afternoon as they stood side by side at the counter, rolling silverware into napkins. "Just give it time. You'll get the hang of it." Sarah smiled nervously. "Thanks, Laura. I don't know what I'd do without you helping me." "That's what we're here for," Laura replied with a grin. "We're a team." Chuck occasionally visited the diner, always unannounced and blending in like any other customer. He liked to sit quietly at a corner table, sipping coffee and observing the staff. Sometimes he'd strike up conversations with employees, asking how things were going or offering advice when needed. Everyone knew who he was now, but his presence never felt intimidating. Instead, it inspired them to work harder, knowing that such a successful man cared deeply about their success too. One evening, as the dinner rush began to wind down, Chuck approached Laura while she was clearing a table. She looked up, surprised to see him standing there. "Got a minute?" he asked casually. "Of course," Laura replied, setting the tray aside. "What's up?" Chuck gestured toward an empty booth nearby. "Let's talk over here." Curious, Laura followed him and slid into the seat across from him. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "I've been thinking," he began. "You've got real leadership potential, Laura. I can see it in the way you handle challenges and support your coworkers. That's not something everyone has." Laura blinked, unsure of where this was going. "Thank you, I think." Chuck smiled. "Here's the thing. I'm opening a new location in Dallas soon, and I need someone reliable to help manage it. Someone who understands the values of this place and can bring that same spirit to a new team. I'd like you to consider taking on that role." Laura stared at him, stunned. "Me? Manage a whole diner?" "Why not?" Chuck asked. "You've already proven yourself here. Sure, it'll be a step up, but I believe you're ready for it. And if you're willing, I'll make sure you have all the training and support you need." For a moment, Laura didn't know what to say. Managing a diner sounded exciting, but also terrifying. Could she really handle that kind of responsibility? What if she failed? Seeing the hesitation in her eyes, Chuck added, "It's okay to be nervous. Change is scary. But remember this. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. If you're willing to take the leap, I promise you won't regret it." Laura thought about it for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll do it." Chuck's face lit up with a proud smile. "That's the spirit. You won't be alone in this, Laura. We'll figure it out together." Over the following weeks, Laura dove headfirst into preparing for the new role. Chuck arranged for her to shadow experienced managers at other locations, teaching her everything from inventory management to scheduling shifts. She soaked up every lesson, determined to prove that he'd made the right choice. Back at the original diner, Laura continued to lead by example. Her relationship with Jake deepened as they collaborated on improving efficiency and customer service. Together, they came up with ideas like hosting weekly family nights where kids ate free, which brought in more families and boosted morale among the staff. Even Sarah noticed the difference in Laura. "You seem so confident lately," she remarked one day as they worked side by side. "Like nothing phases you anymore." Laura laughed. "Oh, plenty of things still faze me. But I've learned that it's okay to ask for help when you need it. None of us can do this alone." As the days turned into weeks, Laura found herself growing not just professionally, but personally too. She started saving money for the first time in years, dreamed of moving into a better apartment, and even considered going back to school someday. It was as if the opportunity Chuck had given her had unlocked a whole new world of possibilities. One afternoon, as Laura sat at the counter, during a rare quiet moment, Chuck joined her. He ordered a cup of coffee and turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "How are you feeling about everything?" he asked. "Honestly," Laura replied, smiling, "I feel amazing, like I'm finally heading in the right direction. Thank you for believing in me and giving me this chance." Chuck nodded. "You earned it, Laura. Don't ever forget that. Hard work and honesty will take you far in life." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the comings and goings of the diner. Outside, the Texas sun shone brightly, casting golden light through the windows. Inside, the hum of conversation and clinking dishes created a warm, familiar rhythm. For Laura, it wasn't just a job anymore. It was a stepping stone, a chance to build something meaningful for herself and others. And as she looked around at the faces of her co-workers, she realized that Chuck had given them all more than just fair wages. He'd given them hope. Little did Laura know, her journey was only beginning. In Dallas, a brand new chapter awaited her, one filled with challenges, triumphs, and opportunities to inspire others the way Chuck had inspired her. The day had finally arrived, the grand opening of Chuck's Corner in Dallas. Laura stood just inside the entrance, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. This was it, her first big step into management, the culmination of weeks of hard work and preparation. She smoothed down her uniform one last time, took a deep breath, and stepped outside to greet the growing crowd. People lined up along the sidewalk, curious to check out the newest addition to the city's dining scene. Families with kids, couples holding hands, and even a few local reporters milled about, chatting excitedly. A banner stretched across the front of the building read, "Welcome to Chuck's Corner, Dallas," in bold letters, while colorful balloons swayed gently in the breeze. It was everything Laura had imagined and more. As she greeted each guest with a warm smile, Laura couldn't help but reflect on how far she'd come. Just months ago, she'd been a frustrated waitress struggling to make ends meet. Now, here, she was standing at the helm of an entirely new location, ready to bring Chuck Norris's vision to life. The thought filled her with pride and a healthy dose of responsibility. Chuck himself arrived shortly before noon, drawing cheers from the crowd. He climbed out of his truck wearing a cowboy hat and boots, looking every bit the legend he was. Laura hurried over to meet him, feeling a mix of admiration and gratitude. "You've done an incredible job, Laura," Chuck said as they shook hands. "I'm proud of you." "Thank you," Laura replied, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "This wouldn't have happened without your support." Chuck smiled. "Don't sell yourself short. You worked hard for this. Now go show everyone what you're made of." With that, the ribbon-cutting ceremony began. Chuck grabbed a pair of oversized scissors and cut the ribbon, signaling the official opening of the diner. Cheers erupted from the crowd as the doors swung open, and people streamed inside to explore. The Dallas branch of Chuck's Corner was larger than the original, with a spacious dining area, A separate section for takeout orders and even a small stage for live music on weekends. Every detail had been carefully planned to create a welcoming atmosphere. Laura moved through the crowd like a pro, answering questions, introducing herself to customers, and making sure everything ran smoothly. Her team buzzed around her, equally excited to see their efforts pay off. Sarah, who had transferred from the Austin location to join Laura in Dallas, beamed as she served plates of pancakes to hungry families. "This place is amazing," Sarah said during a brief lull. "You really pulled it off, Laura." "We all did," Laura corrected her. None of this would have been possible without teamwork. By late afternoon, the diner was packed. Customers raved about the food, the friendly service, and the cozy vibe. Many stopped Laura to compliment her leadership, which only fueled her determination to keep improving. Even the local news crew filmed a segment inside, interviewing both Laura and Chuck about the new location. "So, Laura," the reporter asked, microphone in hand, "what does it feel like to manage your own diner?" Laura hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "It feels incredible. But honestly, it's not just my diner, it belongs to everyone who walks through these doors. Our goal is to make sure every customer leaves happy, whether it's with a full stomach or a smile." The reporter nodded approvingly. "And Mr. Norris, what inspired you to expand Chuck's Corner to Dallas?" Chuck leaned back slightly, his trademark, calm demeanor shining through. "I believe in investing in communities and giving people opportunities to succeed. Laura and her team are proof that when you treat employees well, they'll go above and beyond for your customers. That's what Chuck's Corner is all about." After the interview wrapped up, Laura found a quiet corner to catch her breath. The day had been nonstop, but she wouldn't trade it for anything. As she watched families laugh over meals and friends chat over coffee, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This wasn't just a business. It was a place where memories were made. Later that evening, after the last customer left and the staff finished cleaning up, Chuck called everyone together for a final meeting. They gathered in the dining area, tired but elated. "I want to thank each and every one of you for your hard work today," Chuck began. "Opening a new location is no small feat, and you all rose to the occasion beautifully. But remember, today is just the beginning. What we build here matters, not just for us but for the community." He turned to Laura, his expression softening. "Laura, I couldn't ask for a better leader for this team. You've shown me what dedication looks like, and I know you'll continue to inspire those around you." Laura felt tears prick her eyes but blinked them away quickly. "Thank you, Chuck. None of this would have been possible without your trust and guidance. I promise to keep working hard to honor that." When the meeting ended, the staff lingered for a while, sharing stories and laughter. Laura stayed behind, to lock up, taking a moment to soak in the quietness of the empty diner. Sunlight filtered through the windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors. For the first time all day, she allowed herself to fully appreciate the magnitude of what she'd accomplished. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, from the struggles at the original diner to the unexpected encounter with Chuck Norris that changed everything. Each challenge had shaped her into the person she was today, someone capable of leading, inspiring, and making a difference. Outside, the city lights twinkled against the darkening sky. Laura stepped onto the sidewalk, locking the door behind her. As she walked to her car, she glanced back at the glowing sign of Chuck's Corner. It symbolized so much more than a successful business. It represented hope, resilience, and the power of believing in oneself. Little did she know, this was only the start of her story. With Chuck's continued mentorship and her unwavering drive, there was no telling how far she could go. One thing was certain, though. Laura Bennett was ready to face whatever came next. A year had passed since the grand opening of Chuck's Corner in Dallas, and the diner was thriving. What had started as a dream, fueled by determination and opportunity, had become a cornerstone of the community. Locals loved the friendly service, the delicious food, and the welcoming vibe that made it feel like home. For Laura Bennett, managing the diner wasn't just a job anymore. It was her life's work. Every morning, Laura arrived early to prepare for the day ahead. She greeted her team with a smile, reviewed schedules, checked inventory, and ensured everything was ready before the doors opened. Her confidence had grown immensely over the past year, but she never lost sight of the lessons she'd learned along the way. Hard work, honesty, and treating people with respect. One sunny afternoon, as the lunch rush slowed down, Chuck Norris walked into the diner. He looked exactly the same as he had during their first meeting, calm, composed, and radiating quiet strength. Laura spotted him immediately and hurried over to greet him. "Chuck," she exclaimed, her face lighting up. "What brings you here today?" He tipped his cowboy hat with a grin. "Just wanted to see how things are going. Thought I'd stop by unannounced, old-school style." Laura laughed. "Well, you're always welcome. Come on, let me show you around." As they strolled through the diner, Chuck took in the lively scene. Families sat together at booths, sharing plates of burgers and fries. A group of seniors played cards in the corner while sipping coffee. The staff moved efficiently between tables, chatting warmly with customers. Photos of the team and special events lined the walls, showcasing the diner's journey over the past year. "It looks incredible," Chuck said, nodding approvingly. "You've done an amazing job, Laura." "Thank you," Laura replied, her voice filled with gratitude. "It's been a lot of work, but seeing everyone enjoy this place makes it all worth it." They stopped near the counter, where Sarah, who had quickly become one of the diner's star employees, was serving slices of pie to a table of teenagers. When she noticed Chuck standing there, she waved enthusiastically. "Hey, Mr. Norris," she called out. "Want a slice of pecan pie?" "It's fresh," Chuck chuckled. "Maybe later, thanks, Sarah." Laura watched the interaction with pride. "She's come such a long way," she said softly. "When she first started, she could barely handle a tray without dropping it. Now look at her." "That's what happens when people believe in you," Chuck remarked. "You saw potential in her and she rose to the occasion." The two continued their tour, eventually stepping outside to sit at one of the picnic tables under the shade of a large oak tree. The sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground. It was peaceful, a rare moment of calm in Laura's busy day. "So," Chuck began, leaning back in his chair, "how does it feel to be living your dream?" Laura thought about the question for a moment. "Honestly, it feels surreal. There were times when I didn't think I'd ever get here, when I doubted myself or felt like giving up. But every challenge taught me something new. And now I wake up excited to come to work because I know I'm making a difference." Chuck nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's what success is really about, not just achieving goals but helping others along the way. You've built something special here, Laura, something that will last." Tears welled up in Laura's eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Chuck. If you hadn't given me that chance, I don't know where I'd be right now." "You earned it," Chuck replied firmly. "All I did was give you the tools. You did the rest." For a few minutes they sat in comfortable silence, watching as cars drove by and birds chirped overhead. Then Chuck leaned forward, his tone serious yet kind. "I want you to know something," he said. "This diner is yours now, in every sense of the word. I trust you completely to run it the way you see fit. My hope is that someday you'll take what you've learned here and use it to inspire others. Maybe even open your own place someday." Laura's heart swelled with emotion. "I can't thank you enough for believing in me. I promise I won't let you down." Chuck smiled, standing up and extending his hand. "You already haven't." Inside the diner, preparations were underway for a small celebration that evening. It marked the one-year anniversary of Chuck's Corner in Dallas, and the entire team planned to mark the occasion with cake, music, and speeches. As the clock ticked closer to closing time, Laura gathered everyone in the dining area. "First of all," she began, addressing her team, "I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. This past year has been incredible, and none of it would have been possible without your hard work and dedication. We've created something truly special here, and I'm so proud to call you my team." Applause broke out, followed by cheers and laughter. One by one, employees shared stories of their favorite moments, from Sarah's first perfect shift to Jake organizing a surprise birthday party for a coworker. The room buzzed with joy and camaraderie. Finally, Chuck stepped forward to speak. He raised a glass of sparkling cider, capturing everyone's attention. "When I decided to invest in small businesses like this one," he said, "it was because I believed in the power of community. People like Laura remind me why I do what I do. She took a chance, worked hard, and proved that leadership isn't about titles. It's about inspiring others to be their best selves. So here's to Chuck's Corner, to Dallas, and most importantly, to all of you." The room erupted in applause once again, and Laura felt a lump form in her throat. She glanced around at the faces of her team, her friends, and realized how much they meant to her. They weren't just co-workers. They were family. After the celebration wound down, Laura stayed behind to lock up. Standing alone in the quiet diner, she reflected on how far she'd come. From struggling to make ends meet to running a successful business, her journey had been anything but easy. But every step had been worth it. As she turned off the lights and locked the door, she paused to look back at the glowing sign of Chuck's Corner. It represented more than just a diner. It symbolized resilience, kindness, and second chances. And as long as she kept those values close to her heart, she knew she could accomplish anything. With a final smile, Laura walked toward her car, ready to face whatever the future held. Whatever came next, she was prepared and grateful for the opportunities ahead.